Welcome to the Pasadena Festival of Women Authors 2021 online. Hello, I'm Nora Morley, the chair of the festival. I'd like to thank our committee of volunteers who have worked so hard to bring you our fabulous 2021 authors in video presentations like this one. A unique aspect of our festival is that our authors share their journey as a writer and as a woman. In addition to providing a platform for women authors, we make grants to literary programs. Our recent program grants were made to Pasadena City College, Writer in Residence, Visiting Writer and Summer Writing Academy. Pasadena Public Library, One City, One Story. Pasadena Senior Center, Masters in Learning. PEN America Emerging Voices Fellowship, and the Right Girl Mentoring Program. To all of our donors, thank you for your generous support, and a special thank you to our community sponsors, starting with our lead sponsor, Clifford Swan Investment Counselors, where investment counseling is so much more than finances. It's providing wisdom for generations. And our publisher-level sponsors, BNY Mellon Wealth Management and Payden Regal Investment Management. And our sponsors at the editor level and at the novel level. We are so happy that we've been able to bring our 2020 and 2021 authors to you with our online festivals. We look forward to seeing you in person on March 19th, 2022 at the Pasadena Convention Center with more fantastic women authors. And now, enjoy this author's story.
I'm Peggy Gregerson, and I'm honored to introduce Kylie Reed, author of Such a Fun Age. You know your first novel is going to be big when Lena Waite buys the film right. Reese Witherspoon picks it for her book club. It debuts at number 3 on the New York Times bestseller list, and Trevor Noah invites you on The Daily Show. In Such a Fun Age, Reid subverts our notion of race in what she calls a comedy of good intentions. One of the jokes of the novel is that the white people in Amira's life are more concerned with race than she is. Amira, a Black babysitter, is shopping at an upscale market with her white toddler Charge when a security guard accuses her of kidnapping. Her rich boss, feeling guilty that she knows nothing about her babysitter, overcompensates, maneuvering her into increasingly awkward conversations. Meanwhile, her white boyfriend, who videotaped the incident, pushes her to post it on social media. Both view her only through the lens of race. They can't see that her biggest concern isn't the security guard's racial profiling. Instead, like a typical millennial, she's most worried about getting kicked off her parents' health insurance and adulting. Yet to call this a novel about race is reductive. It's also about friendship, career, love, and motherhood, proving, says The Guardian, that there's so much more to us than skin. A complex, layered page-turner, says NPR. The debut of an extraordinarily gifted writer, says Slate. A masterwork, says the Minneapolis Star-Tribune. Such a Fun Age was longlisted for the Booker Prize and named a Best Book of the Year by the Washington Post, NPR, BBC, and many others. Please join me in welcoming Kylie Reed. Hi, Kylie. I'm so excited you could be with us today.
Thank you. That was a really lovely introduction. I'm really excited to chat with all of you.
Yeah, we would have loved to have you live, but we'll take you any way we can get you.
Yes, this will do for now. Yeah, thank you so much. And if you're all good to go, I'm ready to dive in and then we'll...
Yes, tell us about your journey as a writer and how that led to the writing of Such a Fun Age.
Absolutely. So I'll start in 2015 because that is when idea for this novel presented itself to me. In the very beginning, it started very simply. I wanted to make a page-turner, cringy story about three people. There's something really magical about three people and storytelling, and that imbalance that happens, the alliances that are constantly shifting, it's really, really lovely to watch on screen and read about in a book. From, movies like Moonlight, which is one of my favorites, which I really love, which is a young boy, a new mentor, and a mother who's struggling with addiction, to, rom-coms like My Best Friend's Wedding with, a young woman, the guy she always thought she would end up with, and the girl that comes in and marries him instead. So I knew I wanted to start with three people, but I wasn't exactly sure what that would mean for me. So a big part of writing is working other jobs. So I was doing a number of jobs. I had a number of jobs in my 20s that kind of led me to Amira. People always ask me, oh, are you Amira? Are you Amira? I'm not. You can tell that I'm not from, 5 minutes of meeting both of us. But I will say that I had many service jobs, including being a nanny for 6 years, that really intrigued me in domestic work and the lives of many 20-somethings without health care, and how precarious your 20s can be when your finances are so unstable. And so I had several jobs, from being a hostess at Uno's Chicago Bar and Grill to being a nanny. There was a very weird period of my life where I was a magician's assistant. I got sawed in half and everything. I worked at Abercrombie and Fitch. I worked at what is that place called? American Eagle in the mall. I worked at Godiva. I was a camp counselor. I was a resident assistant. And then when I decided that I wanted to take writing more seriously, I was working as a receptionist. So I was writing in my lunch break. I was writing when I came home from work. And every Friday I would stay in our office and I would take the biggest, prettiest conference room and I would just write my butt off. I really quickly realized that I didn't even know what I didn't know about writing and publishing and getting an agent and putting a book out into the world. And I decided I needed to go somewhere where I could learn those things. And I decided that graduate school would be the best fit. So in 2016, I applied to 11 graduate schools. It took a lot of work. There's samples, there's teacher recommendations, there's teaching statements, there's cover letters, personal statements, the whole thing. So I applied, and in the spring of 2016, I got 2 waitlists and 9 rejections. It was terrible. It was the worst. It's very, very hard to know as a writer and as an artist, when do I pull the plug on this? And when do I say, okay, this isn't for me? Or, maybe I'll keep writing short stories, but maybe I don't keep trying to go to graduate school. I didn't really know what to do. So at that time, my then boyfriend had a job opportunity in Arkansas. He said, hey, this is a cool opportunity. Do you want to come? You can write your butt off and try and go to graduate school one more time. So I did. I quit my job and I moved with him to Fayetteville, Arkansas, and I got a job. Well, I got many jobs. I got 3 jobs to pay the bills while I was writing again. I got a job at a coffee shop. I wrote for a writer who just came out with a book 2 years ago for her social media platforms, and I wrote blogs for a very embarrassing site, which I hope never, ever see the light of day. But most of what I did was write. Arkansas is beautiful. And I lived in New York City for 9 years. The change of pace was really wonderful. It's in the Ozarks. It's gorgeous. It's hilly. There's a really wonderful public library that I spent a lot of my time at. And it was just a true reset from working 50 hours a week and trying to write in the in-between to keeping my writing first. So I was very, very broke, but I was very productive. And I tried again. This time around, I applied to 16 schools, which was so expensive and so much work, but I'm happy to say that I did not get rejected from 9 schools. I got into 9 schools the second time around. And one of those schools was the Iowa Writers Workshop. And so we packed up and moved to Iowa in 2017. So by the time I got to Iowa, I had about 150 pages of Such a Fun Age completed, but I wasn't sure if that was going to be the novel that made it through the gates. I'd had lots of rejections of other terrible novels before that, so my hopes weren't too high. I got to Iowa, and very quickly I wanted to find my readers. I wanted to find people who would give my work really detailed and thoughtful criticism at school, and hopefully, for the rest of my life. And so in the spring of my first year there, Paul Harding, author of Tinkers, Pulitzer Prize winner, he came and taught a workshop on the novel. And so I submitted my pages and got accepted into that workshop. And I joined the novel writing workshop, where we workshopped a novel every week. It was a fantastic class. I'm here to tell you, all of the things you hear about workshops, some of them are wonderful and some of them make you cry. This one was really, really wonderful. Paul really hits home on the fact that our job as readers of our, peers' work is to meet the work where it is and say, where can this be the best where it's at? And I feel that that's what my classmates did for me. It was a really great place to explore my interest and my obsessions and, a paragraph that's not working or a character that seems a little bit flat. All of those things went into the novel in the spring of my first year, and I completed my first novel in May. So at that point, I had met maybe 5 agents at Iowa, and I also submitted the novel to about 8 others just to see what would happen. I wasn't sure if anything was going to happen. I was so thrilled to get about 8 offers for representation, and then comes the dating part where you're just interviewing people and seeing if you're a match or not. I kept going back to my now agent, Claudia, who I had met very, very first at Iowa, and I really liked her vision for the novel. At that period, when you are speaking to an agent, basically they are saying, hey, like, here's what I would think we should change, or this shouldn't be changed, or this is working, this isn't, this is my vision for it. With this novel, it was very, very interesting because this is a novel about a lot of things, about growing up, friendship, it's about race, it's about health, it's about class. But for this novel in particular, the themes of race really stood out to a lot of agents, and some of them would say to me, could you tone down the Black speak? Can you tone it down a little bit? And some of them would say to me, can you make it a little Blacker? Let's make it a little bit more urban. So there's a lot going on in those comments, but what I really loved about Claudia was that she understood the spirit of the novel, and she didn't want to change everything, but she didn't think the novel was perfect. And I signed with her and we started working on the book for about 6 weeks. So in the middle of the summer, we felt like we were ready, and we submitted the novel, and 10 editors came back saying that they would love to take the novel, which blew me away. So I was still living in Iowa, and Claudia said to me, this is going to sound crazy, but I need you to buy a ticket to New York tomorrow. I don't know if I can do that. She said, do it. It's going to be worth it. So we wanted to interview the top 6 editors who wanted the book and make sure they were a proper fit. So I spent $750 on a ticket from Iowa City to, Cedar Rapids to New York City. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to regret this so bad. And Claudia said, trust me, you're okay. We went out, we met all of the editors, and as I was getting off of the plane from Cedar Rapids, I got a call from Claudia, my agent, saying, hey, your book was leaked and you now have film interest. You now have a film agent. You have a meeting in an hour. And so I met with my now film agent in an hour in a meeting in the taxi cab on the way there before the novel was even sold. So the next week I was supposed to be at my first writer's residency at Cuttyhunk Island, which is a teeny tiny island off of the coast of Martha's Vineyard. And so I was so excited that I would be around other writers while I was, going through this process that, we'll all go through. However, it's an island and the service is not great. So while my book was on submission and auction to be sold, I did not have cell phone service. So I was walking around the island like a crazy person, hoping I could catch a pocket of service. And sometimes Claudia would say, okay, this is where we're at right now, and then the phone would cut out. It was terrible, and I didn't think I would make it. However, the novel went to my dream editor, Sally Kim at Putnam, and she received the call and I received the call at the same time. We were both standing on beaches. We both cried. It was a very, very nice ending. So after that, we went forward with the film interest that was shown for this novel. Some of the production teams that were interested in the novel as an adaptation were very, very lovely, but they were all white teams. And I didn't feel right putting this into the hands of all white teams. I wanted this to be in the hands of people of color. So my film agent really heard me on that. And she said, okay, well, who do you like? And we made a list of writers, directors, producers of color that we were really interested in. And Lena Waithe came back, and it was a very easy yes from there. So that was how the book got started. That was a lot, and it went very, very fast. But I'm also here to say that, it was 3.5 years of the book being a Word document. There were so many deleted pages. I remember being in 3 different states, New York, Iowa, and Arkansas, where I had this very real moment where I said, this won't work. I don't think this is going to work. This is not going to be a novel. But that's part of what writing is pushing through the doubt and figuring it out, not because, you know, you have to, but because you need to at a certain point as an artist. And so that was my journey to making this become a real novel. I would love to share with you the inspiration that was going into those 3 years. So the first thing I wanted to do, like I mentioned before, I love awkward moments. I love them, especially when they're not happening to me. I could eat them up. When they are so perfectly choreographed on the page, I feel a little bit high as I'm reading them. And so I wanted to make this book cringy on a domestic scale because I feel like that's where classism and racism often happens most. So I'll give you an example. When I was 22 years old, I was babysitting a lot when I just graduated from college. And I was babysitting for this woman who lived on the Upper West Side. And I heard she had a little girl, a little newborn. She was very cute. And I would come over there randomly whenever she needed me. And then one day she said to me, "Hey, we love having you. Would you be open to being our permanent Saturday night babysitter?" And I said, "I'm so sorry, I can't because I had another permanent Saturday night gig that I didn't want to give up." So I said to her, "I'm so sorry, I can't, but I do have a friend named Mary and she can. So would you want to meet my friend?" And she said, "Oh, we don't want Mary. We really want you." "Okay, sell me Mary. Tell me all about Mary." And I said, "Okay, she's awesome. She plays guitar, she sings, she's super cute, she's really responsible." And this woman looked at me and said, "Uh-oh, she's not too cute though, is she? Because listen, I told my husband we're never going to get a pretty babysitter, if you know what I mean." And, you know, I don't even want to know what my face did at the moment. I think I did something like that. And she said, "Oh no, that came out wrong. No, you're super cute." And I was like, "You know what, let's just not even talk about this anymore." It was so awkward that I wanted to crawl out of my skin. And as a 22-year-old, that's a really painful moment because, you know, being cute was like very high on my priority list. But now as a writer, that moment is doing so much work and so much heavy lifting in such a short amount of time. Something that I love about awkward moments is that they bring hundreds of years of history back to the forefront, even though no one's ready for those moments to come back. Because in that moment, she, you know, completely desexed me as a Black person. And she, you know, put me in the same position that so many Black women have been in, which is a domestic worker position that is not to be, you know, feared at all. And it's interesting because, you know, that seems like the climax of that story, but the true gripping part of that is that I kept working for her because I was broke and I needed the money. And I remember being in her apartment and I would be in the elevator and her neighbors would say to me, "Oh, you must be a nanny. You must be a babysitter." I couldn't help but think, you know, what if I wanted to buy an apartment here? What if I lived here? What if my boyfriend lived here? And when those things start happening, I think a lot of the attention goes to the microaggression that's happening. But I think the important part of the microaggression is when you zoom out and say, how does this affect the rest of my life? You start thinking, did I not get that job because they don't think that I look like I work here? Or did I not get that raise or that apartment because of my last name? And if she thinks this about me, what does that mean for my dreams and my goals and you know, quality that many Black women are not getting? So that's awkward moments. I wanted to include as many as I could in there and extract that feeling that I had from that terrible interaction and put it into the novel. The second thing that I wanted to focus on was money in class. When I was in graduate school, I actually had time to investigate themes of money in class and anxieties of wealthy people and, you know, the language that we use to talk about money when we don't want to admit that we're talking about money. When I workshopped the novel, a lot of my classmates said, "Why is everyone in this book always talking about money? It makes me uncomfortable." And I thought that was interesting for a few reasons. The other novels that we were reading in class were very gory. Some of them had, you know, sexual assault. There was a slave narrative. But my novel was the one that was making everyone feel uncomfortable because it was talking about money. And so I wanted to really honor that note, but also craft the novel's language to accurately depict how we talk about money. Words like, and phrases like, "Oh, that's a good school," or "Oh, that's a sketchy restaurant," or "He comes from a good family." all of those phrases and words are referring to money and income. And I wanted to speak the truth to how we, judge others based on what they have and what they don't have, what highbrow or lowbrow tastes they have, and how that crafts our interaction with people. Graduate school was a time where I could dig into sociologist studies of that, from documentaries, doing my own research, interviewing students, interviewing moms, interviewing nannies. And I felt that my fiction was stronger the more I put truth into it. And so that's what I tried to do with Money in Class. And the last thing I tried to do with this novel was explore memory. I don't know about anyone here, but I have a lot of family members who do this thing where, something happens to them and they tell the story of what happened to them, and someone gives them a reaction and they like it a little bit. So the next time they tell the story, they tell it a little bit bigger, and then they keep telling it a little bit bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And suddenly, what they remember is not at all what happened. But I think memories happen to us for a few reasons, because a big emotional effect was encoded on us. But I also think that memories shift because of how it feels to tell that memory. You might feel like a victim. You might feel rejuvenated. You might feel like a survivor of something. And I think that those memories shape our narrative and how we actually remember things. In the novel writing class, Paul Harding and us talked a lot about depicting memory on the page and how important it is to depict memory as the character sees it and not exactly as it happened. Because that's what we get in real life. We get detailed secondhand, recollections that aren't exactly true all the time. And I think that it's important in fiction to show things as they happen for the character and trust that the reader will figure things out for themselves, because that's what we do every single day. I was so lucky to have 4 weeks of book tour before lockdown started. And I never could have imagined how touching book tour would be, and connecting with readers in that way. I was in Savannah, Georgia, when a young Black woman came up to the table to get her book signed, and she just started bawling. And I said, "Are you okay?" And she said, "Of course I'm not okay. I'm Black, I'm 25, I don't have health care, but I loved your book. Of course I'm not okay, I'm miserable." And I felt like, wow, you're my dream reader right now. That's amazing. There were so many young Black women who said to me, "I read all the time and I've never read a Black protagonist until now." And I also didn't realize I'd never read a Black protagonist until now. I also had a lot of Black women saying to me, "I've never heard me and my girlfriends talking in a novel. And I thought that wasn't literary." And that's so refreshing to hear them say that, and so heartbreaking to hear that that's what they thought. And I understand those thoughts. I used to have them too. And I've had a lot of people say to me, "This book makes me so uncomfortable that I had to put it down before I could finish reading it." That's just the kind of book that I love to read. I love a big emotional response. I love a book that you have to put it down and also you can't stop turning pages. And that's really what I wanted out of this novel. In workshop, Paul always said to us, fiction is about telling the truth. Fiction is about telling the truth that is so accurate and specific that it's almost haunting and it stays with us. Many people ask me for the message of this novel, and I truly don't like to focus on the message, because that's not what brought me to the story. I didn't write this novel to tell anyone how to be or teach anyone how to be. I wrote this novel because I'm obsessed with storytelling. And so I really hope that on your reads, you could get lost in the story as well. And all of this isn't to say that novels can't teach you things. Novels that I've loved have really rested on my heart and worked on me, but I always keep the story first, because that's where I think the heart of a novel lies. And I hope that you get that from this novel too. Thank you so much for listening, and I'm excited to answer your questions.
That was fascinating, Kylie, particularly when you talked about how it's the small, awkward moments, the cringy moments between people that interest you when people are talking about class, race, or money.
Thank you so much. This was definitely an opportunity to dive into all of those little moments, especially when they're not happening to me. It's a little bit easier. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. And now, as you can imagine, our audience is bursting to ask you some questions. Let's begin the Q&A part of the presentation.
Hi, Kylie. My name is Akila Gibbs. I'm the Executive Director of the Pasadena Senior Center. Thoroughly enjoyed your novel.
Thank you.
And congratulations on its success.
Thank you so
Really
much.
great. So I understand you were a babysitter for 6 years, and I'm just wondering if it had an effect on how you portrayed Amira's touching relationship with Briar.
Absolutely. I am not, there's so many writers who write autofiction really beautifully. I'm not really one of them, but I am very affected by the environment that I'm in, the experiences that I have. And for me, the feeling of working in someone else's home was really interesting. And I wanted to put that, Amira in that same situation. I have also been on the receiving end of really connecting with the child and feeling like we are a unit, whether it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, whatever it is, that we have just connected in a way where we understand each other. And I love children. And so, children are just as obsessed with storytelling as I am. And so it's very, very easy to love a child. But I'm also very interested in how domestic work and emotional work get really complicated. It's such a hard thing to take care of a child. It is not an easy job, especially when they're not yours and you're maybe doing, rules that you don't really agree with all the time, that you don't think are beneficial for the child. And on top of that, because of hundreds of years of slavery and so many other forms of injustice, you don't even have health care as you're doing this really, really difficult job. And so I really wanted to portray this really tender, touching relationship between Amira and this child, but also have realities of, our world in the background that Amira doesn't really know what to do because she's not super supported in that way. But yes, there were many children that I really fell in love with. There were some children that I, could have dealt without, but mostly they were very, very kind. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, your story is so timely, especially right now, and you are a phenomenal writer, and thank you for sharing it. Thanks so much.
Thank you for your question.
Hi, I'm Deborah. I'm with Right Girl. I'm an alum. I graduated from the program about 3 years ago, and right now I'm an NYU student. I'm studying film. And I wanted to ask, in your opinion, is Alex, Amira's wealthy white employer, a good or bad person?
Ooh, okay. This wonderful question. And, this is not me backing out of it, but, in order for me to really harness all of my characters, I can't see them as good or bad for a few reasons. One, I think we all have really wonderful qualities, and I think that we all have some that we would like to forget sometimes. And Alex is one of those people. She is a really loyal friend. She's very savvy. She can be a really good mother at times. She has wonderful handwriting, but she also makes a lot of mistakes, and she's very concerned about being liked. But there's this other side where Alex is so lonely and she doesn't really know how to navigate her life in Philadelphia. And they land in Philadelphia, and her husband kind of says, "See you later, have fun figuring out childcare." And it's all up to her. I've heard Ta-Nehisi Coates talk about how he loves characters who find themselves in a position of power that they weren't ready for. And I think that that's Alex. She's had interns before, she's had people working for her, but she's never had someone like Amira who relies on her and who doesn't have, an upward trajectory and career path in the way that she's comfortable with. So Alex makes a lot of mistakes in this novel. But I feel that as soon as I start saying, this person's good, this person's bad, I stop honoring the worlds that they're living in. I think Alex should have a partner who helps her with childcare. I think that, childcare should be subsidized in some way for someone like Amira to be protected. I don't think that it should be up to Alex whether Amira can go to the doctor or not. And so I try really hard to save my energy for the systems that they're working in rather than the people. But does Alex make a lot of mistakes? Yeah, she goes a little wild in this one. Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much. It's been great getting to hear from you.
Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Laura, and I'm a graduate student at DePaul University and a Right Girl alum. And my question for you today is, how did the rise of the Black Lives Matter movement affect the reception of your novel?
That's a great question. And I may or may not be writing about someone who went to the grad program at DePaul in something I'm writing now. So I love hearing that. That's really great. But yes, that's a great question. My novel came out on December 31st of 2019. And then we went through
4 weeks of book tour, and then the second wing got cut off because of the pandemic. And then through the summer, the Black Lives Matter movement came back on the scene because of horrific murders that were happening. As an artist, I feel very strongly that you do not get to choose how people come to your art or how they engage with your art. And so a lot of people came to Such a Fun Age because of the horrific things they were seeing on the news, and then saying, I feel lost, I want to help, what can I do? And for many people, they are kind of instructed by a lot of people to say, buy Black art, consume Black art, and surround yourself with anti-racist materials. So on one end, that's great because there's so much great Black art, and so many great, explorations of race. On the other end, it is difficult because what happens is everyone is approaching Black art as a pedagogical tool and saying, okay, what can this book teach me? And that's actually putting more labor on the Black artist who is addicted to storytelling or thrillers or whatever they're into. You would never go to a painting in a museum and be like, okay, make me a better person because I'm consuming you right now. So it's a little bit of a difficult place. I remember someone read my book, a white woman read my book, and then she tagged me in a review that said, I really want to learn, I want to do the work. So I started reading this book, and I saw that the white woman in it had divider plates for her children. And I thought, okay, got to throw my plates away, throwing them away. I was like, don't throw your plates away. That's crazy. That's such a dramatic response. At the same time, I do feel that people say, okay, the white people in this are good, the Black people in this are bad, and that's how I'm going to read it. And that's such a flat read. There are Black people in this novel who have really high respectability politics and are so condescending towards Amira. There's white women who really support her. They're human. And I think that reading a book for the story first and not, thinking that by consumption you can become a better person is really important to your own read and to the Black artists that you're trying to support. So I hope that answers your question. Yes.
No, it definitely does. That was actually really insightful. And thank you so much for answering my question and all the insight that you gave us today.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ariel, and I'm a Reid Girl alum and current UCLA freshman studying political science. And you talked a little bit about fiscal insecurity a little bit earlier, and so I wanted to know why you decided to focus specifically on health insurance.
Absolutely. I think that healthcare, I've always been really interested in the way that healthcare works. And the way it doesn't work and who it works for and who it doesn't work for. I did not have healthcare for a number of years in my 20s. And the way that manifested itself was different than I thought it would. I was working at a place called the Craft Studio in New York City, which is really fun. I was there for 4 years. We did birthday parties for children, and sometimes we did 3 a day. It was wild. There was a lot of singing happy birthday, but it was very fun. But there was a part of the party where we had to cut an ice cream cake. I don't know if you've ever cut an ice cream cake, but it's kind of difficult. The trick is you run the blade under hot water, but still it takes a really long time. So I got really good at it, and I could cut the whole cake and make sure every kid had a piece of frosting on their plate so no one would fight or anything. But I had to do it really, really quickly, and I didn't have healthcare. And every time I went to go cut that cake, I thought, if you cut yourself, you are going to alter the course of your life because you're going to have to pay thousands of dollars for stitches or whatever it is. And I was very interested in how not having a safety net of healthcare affects your performance at work. And especially when you're dealing with children and being really active, you want to feel really comfortable. But if you're not comfortable, your job is going to suffer, and it's going to be harder for you to move up or progress in the way that you want to. So I am in the camp where I think anyone should be able to go to the doctor whenever they are sick. I think healthcare is a human right. And the fact that, we live in a world that is joining our jobs to our healthcare, I think is really problematic. A lot of people say, Alex is crazy, which she can be. She can be very creepy, and she shouldn't look at Amira's text messages. I think it's a scarier thing to think of the fact that if everything goes well for Amira and Alex would be in charge of Amira's healthcare. And that's really scary to me. She's a very mercurial person who has a lot of strong emotions, and she might, not feel good one day, and then Amira's out of healthcare. So I think that probably from personal experience, that was where I was really interested in healthcare. But other than that, I like putting a time capsule on a book. I like when someone has a cutoff date, and the fact that Amira's healthcare was cut off when she was turning 25 or 26 was really, really, important for me to include, because that's the reality of many, many young people's lives.
Thank you. I'm really happy that you focus on that, actually, because, as a young Gen Zer coming into the world, I'm starting to navigate the same type of issues. So it's really nice to have an example in your book for us.
Good. But you're a student, so I hope you have it. You have healthcare.
Yeah, currently, but yeah.
As long as you can, that's great.
Hi, Kylie. I'm Sophia Aguilar, and I'm a senior at Sarah Lawrence College, and I study creative writing, and I'm also an alum of Right Girl. And I'd love to know how the movie version of Such a Fun Age is coming, as I hear you writing the screenplay.
Okay, so one, that's amazing. I used to live up on 103rd and Central Park West, like not too far away from Sarah Lawrence. So yeah, congratulations. And two, the screenplay is underway, which is exciting, but as I'm sure you could guess, production is shut down in so many cases. That being said, I have two really wonderful teams, and we found ways to move forward with this and make sure that we are, capturing the spirit of this and what it looks like on screen. I am not writing the screenplay. We have found a wonderful writer who I really, really trust, and I am serving as an executive producer, and I'm really happy that they have me on as a thought partner in that way. I love film. And I have a lot of opinions about, adaptations from book to film. And I feel that the best adaptations aren't too precious about the place where they came from and really honor the medium and what the screen needs. And so my goal is to obviously provide help and keep the spirit of the book alive, like on screen and what we do there. At the same time, I really want to trust the experts and make this more of a learning opportunity for me and hopefully be really excited by what we have on screen. So I will definitely be, raising hell when it comes to casting, because that's like my favorite thing, novel to movie casting. But I have a really wonderful team and so far, so good. Yeah, I'm excited to see it, and I hope you can see it too.
Yeah, that's amazing. I can't wait for it to come out in theaters. It's going to be great.
Thank you.
Kylie, thank you so much for being part of our virtual festival. We loved having you.
Thank you very, very much. Everyone's questions were so lovely, and next time, definitely in person. Thank you again.
I'd also like to thank our guest Zoom audience. Please support the mission of the festival and our 2021 authors by making a donation and purchasing the authors' books. Just go to the PFWA website, which is listed at the end of this video presentation. It's been a real pleasure hosting this conversation. I hope to see you all in person at the festival in 2022.